Finding your own gold is fun, but it can be difficult because gold is rare stuff. Now, folks who want to be successful at finding gold often work very hard, they put in a lot of effort, and yet still at the end of the day, you might have little or nothing to show for all the work you put in. I know how frustrating that can be, and believe me, I've experienced the same thing at times. The greatest levels of success come from being first, because in most cases, the gold just doesn't grow back. In active streams and that sort of thing, flooding can replenish some gold. But in a lot of other places, man, once somebody's harvested it, it's gone. So to help you out and make your prospecting more successful, I'm going to share with you 7 gold-rich spots that most people kind of ignore. And I've found gold in all of these kinds of places, sometimes pretty spectacularly. And so I'm going to share with you some spots that are productive and can produce gold even in areas that have been worked fairly hard by other people. Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and today I'm going to share with you 7 different kinds of places that when you go out and you're searching for gold, and maybe it's an area, maybe it's a club claim that other people have worked, maybe it's an area that's popular and has been worked a lot, but these are kind of more hidden, or I wouldn't call them secret, but still they're not as well known, and they're kind of places that even in locations where you go out and like I say, you're working an area that's been worked before, you can stop and still find some good gold in these kinds of places. And the first one I'm going to tell you about, I'll tell you a little story that goes with it. I had gone to an area in California that had been worked by the old timers. It was a placer area, what we call a ground sluicing area. So it wasn't real high pressure water, but it was working ground, 3, 5, 8 feet deep maybe. And they washed off a whole lot of area, and they had piles of boulder cobbles here and there, and I'd found some decent gold in that. And one time I went to this spot and I brought a friend with me, and we got there, and after lunch, we agreed that we would meet back at the truck at 5 o'clock, okay? That we work the rest of the day and meet back at 5 o'clock and head back to camp. Well, we were there, and it got to be about 5 o'clock, and I was back at the car, and I knew my friend would be along shortly. And sure enough, a few minutes later, he showed up, and he said, "Hey, I was just wandering back to the car, like we agreed, and I was swinging my metal detector, and I heard something go off, and I looked down, and I could see a nugget in the road." And he said, "We ought to check this road out one of these days. You ought to give it a try." And so, it was one of it was literally, I think, either the last or the second to the last day of the season that we were out prospecting, because the weather was turning cold. That's why we had to call it a day at 5 o'clock, because it was starting to get dark. And so, I kind of put that in the back of my head. And the next year I was out, and I had a situation where I really literally had only a half a day to go prospecting. And so I thought, well, I'll try the spot and see if the road throws anything. And so I went out there, and I got my metal detector out and, started in the same general area where he had found his nugget. And the nugget he found was about 1 gram, nothing super spectacular, but not a little speck either. And so I started going along there, and these workings had produced some decent gold in the past. I mean, these workings had produced big nuggets, right? Some of them over 50 ounces, okay? So I was going along, and I got a shallow target, and it was trash. And I went along and got another shallow target, and it was trash. And one of the things about detecting in a roadway is you're likely to find that the road is more trashy than other places nearby. But I went along, and the next signal I got, the third signal, sounded deeper and sounded better. And so I dug and I dug, and it got louder and louder, and pretty soon it was screaming. And I thought, well, this is probably just a deep piece of trash. And I popped it out, and it was a nugget over 1 ounce. and I went over that whole area. I had to get back to, I got a few other nuggets that day, smaller, out of the road, and I came back again and again a number of times to that road, and over that summer I got 3.5 ounces plus out of that road. And the 1 ounce nugget that I got 2 half-ounce nuggets in that road in the general area. And I got a 1/4 ounce nugget and a bunch of smaller gram and 2 gram and half gram and 1/4 gram and even smaller. But there was a lot of gold in that road. And the reason was, they pushed this road through the workings, and what they did was they scraped off all the overburden, and the bedrock was kind of hummocky, and so they went over the top and they kind of scraped down to where it was bedrock in some places with a bulldozer to make this road, and the places where the bedrock was hummocky, they'd gone over the top, and there would be a little swale there, and the gold was down on the bedrock in the swale. Nobody'd ever worked that because that was their roadway that they used for access. So this is my first hint. Roads through mining areas, especially if you have workings on both sides, especially if it's placer workings, you've got workings on both sides, check that road, especially if you can see some bedrock and maybe some gravel where like I say, the bedrock is uneven, and they'll bulldoze down when they start hitting the bedrock, they kind of make it flat, and there'll be places of deeper gravel there, and that's a great place. Like I say, I found $7,000 worth of gold in a comparatively small area right in the middle of a road, and I'd driven over that road probably 30 or 40 times before I found that nugget. Let me show you a picture of that gold. Here's the gold I got, 3.54 ounces. Now this is some nice, real coarse gold. The biggest piece in the middle at the top is the 1 ounce plus piece. Then the two at the top on either side are the half ouncers, and a couple of 1/4 ounces below them, and then on down more smaller pieces. This doesn't include several pennyweight that I got by dry washing, and then also a few nuggets scattered around here and there that I picked up since I took this picture. And so the real total was probably over 3 3/4 ounces, getting close to 4 ounces from that road patch. And people drove over that all the time, including me. And so, although lots of people had detected there was still gold, and it was in the middle of the road, a place that a lot of people ignore. You need to keep in mind when you're out in the field, because like I say, the gold in most cases, other than along certain streams, the gold doesn't grow back. And so being knowledgeable on these sorts of things really makes a huge difference. Now, I say in a lot of my videos that having the knowledge of prospecting and where to search for gold and how to recognize it and that sort of thing is the key to being successful in prospecting. And it takes time to learn the skills of prospecting. It isn't just watching one video. It takes a while to learn. It's like a trade skill, like being an electrician or something. You don't become an electrician for watching a 5-minute YouTube video. It takes a little bit more than that. And so to give you those skills of prospecting and help you learn more about finding gold and how to be successful in finding gold and gemstones, platinum, and other things, I wrote a book. It's called Fistful of Gold, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my book right now. This is my book, Fistful of Gold. And like I say, it's an encyclopedia of prospecting. And, if you want to go out and find your own nuggets, you want to go find your own gold, you want to be successful, well, it's about what you know. The guys who are finding gold, they have a knowledge. It's a skill. I sometimes compare it to like being an electrician. Just buying a voltmeter at Home Depot doesn't make you a journeyman electrician. And having a sluice box or a metal detector or gold pan doesn't make you a successful prospector. It's about what you know, right? And that's why I wrote this book. Like I say, it's an encyclopedia. It has stuff that really is for beginners. It has stuff that's for mid-level guys that have learned the basics and want to learn more. And it has even some more advanced things for guys that have some experience but want to learn even more. And I've actually run into people in the field where they tell me something and I say, oh, that's a pretty advanced concept. Where'd you learn that? And then they said, I read your book. So, it has a real high rating on Amazon, and it's available either from Amazon or from High Plains. Now, High Plains Prospectors, they're an outfit that's a mail order prospecting equipment dealer. They have everything you can imagine, from a simple gold pan through basic metal detectors all the way to high-end metal detectors and other stuff. If you need it for the prospecting games, High Plains has it. And you can get a discount code with them. If you order something from them, use the discount code Chris Ralph. It's CHRISRALPH in all caps, no space in between Chris and Ralph, and you can get a discount off of what you're buying from them. And then they have my book. You can get my book from them. And so they're really great guys, and I've dealt with them for a while, and I'm happy to recommend them because, like I say, they're good dudes. So if you want to learn more about prospecting, consider my book, Fistful of Gold. And be sure to take a look at my YouTube episodes. I've got lots of videos and lots of information on YouTube. And, I oftentimes get people say, hey, Chris, why don't you make a video on XYZ, right? And it's like 90% of the time, it's like, I already have a video on XYZ. Take a look. And so if you're interested, look at my back catalog of videos because there's a lot of good information there. And we'll see you in the next video.